Bone graft preparation for MGS. The Arthrex Univers reverse modular glenoid system can be modified to accommodate severe arthropathy and bone loss in the glenohumeral joint by augmenting the glenoid with a bone graft prior to placement of the base plate. The humeral pin placement guide of 135 degrees or 155 degrees is placed onto the humeral head. The humeral axis should be aligned with the pin placement guide handle to ensure the accurate inclination angle of the guide pin. If desired, version rods can also be introduced into the guide. Drive the 2.8 mm pin through the guide pin until the lateral humeral cortex is engaged. The bone graft can be fashioned in a 25 mm or 30 mm diameter. Introduce the primary reamer from the modular glenoid system over the 2.8 mm guide pin. Use the 24 mm reamer if a 25 mm graft is desired. Use the 28 mm reamer for a 30 mm graft. Conduct reaming on power until congruency between the reamer face and bone in the humeral head is achieved. Select the appropriately sized hole saw, 25 mm or 30 mm, and place it over the 2.8 mm guide pin. The hole saw contains an integrated central drill, which prepares the graft to accept the central post of the MGS base plate. Use the inscribed lines on the outside of the hole saw to determine the desired depth, which will help estimate the maximum graft thickness possible. Resect the humeral head at the anatomic neck using the oscillating saw. Take care to ensure that the graft does not fall during this stage of preparation. Proceed to the glenoid to evaluate the defect and graft dimensions. Position the glenoid sizer pin guide from the instrument set onto the glenoid face. Insert the 2.8 mm guide pin through the desired pin trajectory. If reaming the paleoglenoid, introduce the 33 mm flat reamer over the guide pin. To prevent overmedialization of the reamed surface, frequent visual assessment is necessary. Configure the glenoid defect gauge based on the graft diameter being used. At this time, only insert the angle measuring leg into the defect gauge. Align the angle measuring leg to the slot along the side of the defect gauge marked Angle A. Slide the angle measurement leg down the defect gauge until its T-bar rests on the slotted angle pointer arm. Lift the slotted angle pointer arm until the slotted opening allows the T-bar to slide into the channel. Place the glenoid defect gauge instrument over the 2.8 mm guide pin until the central tip and angle measuring leg of the instrument rest on the glenoid surface. Make an electrocautery mark on the glenoid where the angle measuring leg rests. Mark another mark 180 degrees opposed. Note the angle measurement from the angle pointer on the lateral aspect of the defect gauge. Select the angled adapter corresponding to the measurement from the glenoid defect gauge and place it on the reamer sleeve. Attach the disposable variable angle reamer face into the reamer assembly. A tactile connection should be felt as the reamer face attaches securely to the inner drive shaft. Before attaching the reamer assembly to the powered hand equipment, it is recommended that the orientation sleeve be placed over the reamer sleeve to assist with rotational control while reaming. Advance the reamer slowly, checking often to assess the amount of bone being reamed. The resultant reaming should provide a flat, circular surface on the glenoid face. Insert the thickness measurement leg into the defect gauge by sliding it into the channel opposite of the angled measurement leg that was previously inserted. With both angle and thickness measurement legs inserted, place the defect gauge over the guide wire and use it to confirm the glenoid reaming angle. Note the reading from the thickness measurement leg. Place the bone graft cylinder into the raised plate corresponding to the graft diameter. Once the graft has been inserted, place the raised plate into the graft prep cart, using the trilobe knob within the cart to further secure the graft. Place the graft prep cart into the graft prep station by sliding it from the right. Advance the cart until the desired max thickness, as noted in glenoid preparation steps, is aligned between the ruler on the cart and the thickness displayed on the graft prep station. Turn the thumb knob to lock the cart into place. Based on the angle determined during the glenoid evaluation steps, orient the cutting guide of the graft prep station until it matches the desired angle. Once the angle is aligned, lock the cutting guide into place by tightening the thumb knob. Insert an oscillating saw blade through the guide and advance the blade until the entire graft has been cut. Gently place the bone graft onto the modular glenoid system base plate. Combine the variable depth drill and the variable drill collar. Adjust the drill depth by rotating the collar about the threaded portion of the drill shaft. Determine the drill depth based on the length of the selected modular glenoid system base plate post, less the graft thickness at its most shallow point. Advance the drill until the collar bottoms out onto the prepared glenoid surface. Full contact between the drill collar circumference and the glenoid surface will not be achieved due to the reamed angle of the glenoid face. Impact the base plate graft assembly into the prepared glenoid using standard modular glenoid system impaction technique, taking care to align the graft to the electrocartary mark made earlier. Graft compression is achieved through the combination of the press fit of the central post and the selected peripheral screws.